I started out as a maid in 1970. I made $1.87 an hour. And we marched for a living wage and we won, and maids in Vegas still get a living wage. So I live out of optimism. I've seen a ton of change. Change can happen, and I live out of that possibility instead of where you can get stuck in the grind if you put yourself in the machinery. The power of women's voices we're seeing everywhere, and I don't mean women's voices in relationship to the patriarchy, but women's voices that are really having the courage to speak from the feminine and to speak about what it is to be in this abuse of the structures that we live inside of. It's kind of like, men find their way to something like this, and women as river, as water.
Have a fabulous pioneer.
Gloria Steinem has a great quote, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off." And we put it on Code Pink t-shirts so we could remember that we really go and witness. And that when we bring home the truth, it isn't what people are hearing in their media. And it doesn't feel good. So we're kind of ready for the backlash.
Thank you for sharing that. And bringing that back to the media, because the most media really thrives on the visceral, violent reactions, and like you said, not really the soft water, the feminine. That's almost the undercurrent. It's subtle, and it's not as maybe sexy to.
Oh, but it's very sexy.
Well, very sexy.
It depends on what you like in your sex,
A lot of times we go, oh, we must have told the truth, and that it's uncomfortable. And so, because, Code Pink is a community, a woman can be outside of a base in the middle of Oklahoma, but she stands there with all of us. It's so funny, it's like this pink connects us, but inside we're all pink, so that we're all connected. Having that, those women at your back, you kind of can weather a lot. As we know, if we didn't use our voice, nobody's going to. Diane Wilson at Pioneers had said, reasonable women conforms to the world, and unreasonable woman leads the world forward. And so we said, let's all be unreasonable women.
Yes.
I would say the Pioneers women are the godmothers of Code Pink. Caroline Casey certainly, because she's really in our name, and Diane Wilson because she inspired us all to be together. Starhawk that day wrote the call of why women had to stand up against war, and that we didn't feel that we were better than men, but that men had always been the makers of war, and women and the children at the effects of.
You learn as an activist, one of the very first rules of activism is that you can only change the person closest to you. Everybody, during the war, is like, how do I get my Aunt Helen, the racist, woman who's a warmonger? I'm like, I don't know, and I don't really care. But what I care about is, how are your kids doing? How's your husband? How's your best friend? Because it's really, we live inside of these structures we're not even aware of. And I'm really fascinated by this because we've thrown caution to the wind into the capitalist, oppressive, extractive economy. We literally don't even ask questions. We give it our power. We throw caution to the wind. Now, I think personally we don't think we've done that, but we live inside of a water that's what happens. Like, oh, that must know, they must know, this must know. We do that instead of being present with what doesn't work for us right now. And I think if you get overwhelmed, you haven't really checked yourself about what isn't really working right now. Look at the things that we destroy. I mean, one of the hardest things for me to look at is the United States of America has violently killed, maybe 20 million people that you can count because they were communists, because they believed in equality and humanity. Think about that. It's not okay. But to wake up to that is gonna be hard. It's gonna take communities, and it's gonna take communities of nurturing and caring, because if we don't come to terms with that, we won't be able to take care of each other, and we won't recognize that there's a world out there that's been growing in relationships We, for some reason, have faith in this capitalist economy, which has always been bad. Always. It's always failed, wars always failed, and we keep doing that same thing. That's called insanity. And when we look out in the world and we say, politics is insane, corporations are insane, yes. But why don't we listen to that and then take our energies outside of that and throw caution to the wind, like we do in relationships when we fall in love. When we fall in love, we throw caution to the wind. But when we look at the love economy, when we look at the giving, sharing economy, we don't throw caution to the wind. We don't have faith that the world will be there, even though that's what's been there all along. The mother, the grandmother, the friend, the community, it is why we exist and thrive. But we don't throw caution to the wind and let love take us away. Instead, we think this is reality instead of this. So at Code Pink, we just launched a new campaign. Our mission statement had been to end war, bring the money home to the life-affirming needs of our community. That's our mission statement. And we'd been spending a lot of attention on ending war, and we're very happy that we were just able to get the Iran deal accepted instead of the Republicans who were pushing us for more war. And we'd written a book called Stop the Next War, which was about Iran, so we were feeling really good. So we've turned the mission statement backwards, and we're working locally to build life-affirming activities to bring the money home to end war. And for us, that is that, there's a peace economy. And it is the relational, reciprocal, sharing, giving, caring, thriving economy that without which none of us would be alive. It's our mothers, our fathers, our communities, and how they hold us so that we can be alive. And then there's this war economy, which, half of our tax dollars fund war, and the violent economy that's destroying our planet and exploiting people globally into, so many people in slavery to make products for us. But we value this war economy instead of valuing this amazing peace economy that we live inside of. So we're really paying attention to where are the places where all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't have the teeth, It's very the war economy. And what is it to transform and transfer our attention into this peace economy, this feminine economy? We know that when we come together as people and that we don't project all our energies off onto these other economies that are destructive, that we can actually build something and grow something beautiful and relational and peaceful and loving, and that celebrates all that it is to be human and alive and connected.